Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today, we are talking the Next Steroid Era. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Bro.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
So, we are doing something a little different today. And I know, what is the topic? But before we get into all of that, just want to say thank you all so much for listening. October has been an incredible month, a record month.
Yes.
Viewership has more than doubled from October versus September, which is awesome. So, I know you guys are telling your friends and sharing, and Ken's been talking to some of you guys at the shop. But we appreciate your support so much. We're just blown away by the surge of numbers. So thank you all so much for listening every week. And if you are one of those people who are just now finding Nightcap Chat, welcome. We're glad to have you, and we hope you stay.
It is always a good time to talk to our listeners when they come by the shop. It's I'm starting to check in with people now too and say, hey, what do you guys think of the Halloween episode? And it's it's fun saying, yeah, dude. They started sharing me their favorite candy, which was kind of fun. And,
yeah.
It's fun to see that people are listening and out there participating, and we can't do this without you guys' participation. So, I was ecstatic when Blade asked me to be part of the show, and participation, that's what got me started with this. And you guys are as much part of the show as we are, so we look forward to hearing your guys' feedback.
And like I said in previous episodes, if you have an episode topic idea, or you just have a question you want us to answer during the podcast, just write us in on social media. We're at Nightcap Chat on Facebook, Twitter, and Nightcap_chat on Instagram.
Yeah, feedback's always great.
Yeah. Feedback, suggestions, we love it.
Yeah. And plus we'll also probably mention you on the episode too, like we have for a couple other people. So. Yeah,
which is fun. So I don't know how long today's episode will be, but it's something a little different. And this is something that after we talk about it, we really, really hope you share, because this isn't a stressful topic, but we think that there needs to be some light shed on this. And we hope that if we all take the time just to share and kind of help spread the word, let's really, shine a light here. So, we're calling this the Next Steroid Era. So, what was the steroid era?
The steroid era was, when Major League Baseball got, quote unquote busted for steroids, even though Major League Baseball knew it was happening all the time. And then they were like, oh no, we had no idea that steroids, or players were taking steroids.
What's that?
And then they were like, oh no, we have to do this big investigation. When they knew the whole time, everybody knew. It's just, that's what the steroid era was, and people getting thrown under the bus for something that people just allowed to happen.
Just the whole thing during Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, that whole era of baseball. So that's where this name is based off. I usually don't explain the names of my episodes, but I just kind of want to paint a little picture here.
I have kind of a thought about that era in baseball.
Yeah.
The steroid era came off of probably what was one of the worst work stoppages in baseball history, the strike year. And there was, no World Series coming off of that year. It was, I think, one of the, I don't know, Lance, you know better than I do. Was that the only time there was no World Series during a season, or a season never finished after it started? Because I remember the Expos,
the season started late because of the work stoppage, and Major League Baseball was so hungry for getting money, because they lost hundreds of millions of dollars from missing all that, that they decided to basically turn a blind eye and let from 95 to 2004, Major League Baseball, all the teams were setting records for attendance, records for TV, because of the home runs were putting fans in the seats, and it was drawing huge crowds, and Major League Baseball was flourishing. So they just let it happen.
The numbers were off the charts during those days, and it was a time when baseball, I think owners and the league was kind of concerned that strike lost a lot of fan base, and those numbers brought all those people back to the stands. And it was quite a turned the other way for about 5 years there to get that fan base back. I mean, shoot, dude, the Montreal Expos never were the same. They eventually became the Washington Nationals within a few years later, too. And the Expos were in first place before that strike started. And they were just never the same after that. And eventually became the Washington Nationals, as I said. But baseball, that was a dark time for baseball. The steroid era was what brought baseball back to fame. But then afterwards, when they decided to, oh man, we got to break down and crack down on people that use steroids because these numbers are so overinflated, it changed baseball once again. Within like this 5-year window, there was like 3 changes of baseball.
Right. Yeah. And it's
when it came to stats and fans, and I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on all that too, Lance?
I mean, my honest thoughts are, I don't blame a single player. I just blame Major League Baseball. It's none of their faults. At the end of the day, you have a job. In order to keep that job, when 90% of the people are taking performance-enhancing drug, and you want to either keep your job making money to support your entire family, or possibly not have a job, because a lot of these baseball players you don't have an education. You don't have anything to go back on this. I mean, look at Todd Pratt. He was busted for taking steroids, and he wasn't taking steroids initially, and he lost his starting job to some kid because he knew everyone was taking steroids. And since he lost his job playing baseball, he was delivering pizza. Wow. So he decided, I'm going to take steroids, got his job back starting baseball, making millions of dollars, because like, it's just what he had to do because to stick with the competition. So no, I don't blame any player. I think they all did, what they felt like they needed to do. I think if you did it after they started doing the drug testing, that's a little different story. If you started doing it after 2006, then that's one thing. But to do it when you did it in that era, I don't blame a single player. I try to be open-minded about it. I think blackballing the players because Major League Baseball was selfish and wanting to keep money is just not okay.
Yeah. I apologize. I feel like I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse on the whole discussion here, but it was just always been a fascinating time of how steroids impacted baseball. But I want you to go into what we're here to talk about tonight. I apologize about cutting off.
No. This is great, and this kind of helps paint a picture because there's also going to be there's a stark contrast between this thing that happened in the 90s, early turn of the century, and what we're about to talk about here. So like this is laying the ground here. This happened in Major League Baseball, right? What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with Nightcap Chat? We talk comic books, video games, pop culture.
Yeah, who cares about sports?
Why are we talking about baseball? So there's this thing. I'm sure most, if not all of you, already know it. Like there's something called Esports, right? It's video game competitions. Some of the more popular ones are Counter-Strike, Overwatch, a lot of like first person shooters, high motor skill type games, Fortnite, video games we're all familiar with. Esports are growing, it's a really popular thing. It's all over Twitch. There's all kinds of ways, especially, for some younger demographics. I'm not saying that, people over 40 don't watch esports, but I mean, it's something, younger adults, would tend to watch, right? Lance, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. I mean, esports is growing huge. I mean, Fortnite last year, they gave away $10 million in tournaments in Epic Games themselves. Not forget about like tournaments that other people did for Fortnite, right? Like big streamers like the Nick Mercs or the Ninjas or whoever hosting their own tournaments, saying, hey, whoever wins this tournament gets $10,000 on Twitch, right? That's not even including that. Epic Games gave 10 million themselves, through different tournaments that they hosted.
So that's a lot of money. And this is something that actually Lance pitched to me a few months ago. And I was like, I don't want Nightcap Chat to be too dark. Not that this is going to be dark. But here we are. We think it's important and we're going for it here.
So how this relates to, the steroid era is basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have heard of, stuff like Adderall and Ritalin, right? These are drugs that are usually given to people who have ADHD, attention deficit disorder, or some type of, issues with like focusing. And it's understandable. A lot of times people, you have to take it, at the end of the day. But when you're taking it and you're participating in, a sport or some type of, event where you need additional focus, this drug would be, great for you to, especially for playing video games. I mean, it's all about reaction time. The difference of 0.01 seconds could be the difference of you getting the extra bullet on the guy that you're trying to kill, right? Which I think, it's no different than, you playing and you have better ping, right? It's like a similar thing, right? If this guy's on 30 ping and I'm on 0 ping, that means he has 0.03 seconds. He's gonna be faster from his screen. But if someone's on drugs, it could be the same thing, right? So,
and for the sake of anyone who doesn't know what the hell a ping is, that has to do with internet speed.
Yeah, ping is how quick your connection takes to go from where you are to the server. Okay. So depending on how close you are to the server, usually means how good your ping is. But so let's get back to the drugs, right? So we're talking about, sure, people need prescriptions, but we have these tournaments now where you can be at home playing Fortnite, making thousands and thousands of dollars just sitting on your computer. And I'm not talking about just like playing on Twitch. I'm talking about in actual like tournaments, and these are tournaments that are hosted by Epic Games or other people. And I think it's kind of crazy that we're going to have other leagues also like Overwatch League. It's a huge league. It's been going around for a couple of years. And yet there's no like drug testing policy. Like, I find that a little flabbergasting considering how much money's on the line. Like people can make a living and that's great. I 100% support esports. I love esports. I wish I could get into it, to that extent.
I mean, there's good money in it, Overwatch League, I believe the minimum salary for their players is like $50,000, if I'm not mistaken.
50,000.
Wow.
I mean, and like, if you're 18 making $50K for playing a video game for a few months, I mean, granted there's practice, just like any, real sport, but that's not bad for a starting salary. Like I wouldn't complain with that. And no, but I mean, a lot of these kids make more and there's potential for bonuses, like they're like in Overwatch League in particular. There's like a prize pool of, was it $2 million for the various tournaments? I think it's like quarter million, then the 1 million for the finals. So I mean, like there's good money. Go on.
So I know you guys are like, hey, it's Adderall. It's just a drug that's prescribed to, it should be safe, right? Doctors prescribe it. So if you just I did a little digging on some credible websites, and so some of the things like some issues that you could potentially get for taking Adderall for like long-term, like heavy usages, right? You can get sleeping difficulties, inability to concentrate, lack of motivation, depression, irritability, lethargic, fatigue, aggression, mood swings, paranoia, anxiety, panic attacks, heart disease, weight loss, headaches, constipation, tremors, things like that. So it could lead to some pretty serious issues, right? And I think that's not okay, especially when you're considering, Fortnite's probably one of the biggest games of the last 3 years, right? It's one of the biggest games ever right now. And it's still extremely popular. It's coming down a little bit. It's still extremely popular. And Fortnite, their tournament that they had, their biggest tournament was like, I think it was like a $2 million tournament, $1 million tournament was the total prize pool of that tournament. The average age group for the people that participated in that tournament was 16.9 years old.
Wow.
Okay. So, and you're talking about people who have constantly talked about, I mean, you're talking about big streamers who have said like, they're all on Adderall. It's constant. It's not even like a joke. Like everyone knows that all these kids are taking Adderall. They're taking drugs, whether they're prescribed it or not. They could be taking extra dosages, and it's just. I mean, there was even a CS:GO player named Semphis who said it in an interview on YouTube.
Really?
That his entire team was on it. He said during that tournament, he's like, yeah, we were all on Adderall.
And these were kids too, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. They were, I mean, he's, probably like 18 years old, right? He admitted that the entire team had taken Adderall while playing in a $250,000 tournament, right? And I'm not saying Adderall is like this this is so bad for you, but you have people who are taking medication to win money in a tournament. At the end of the day, I mean, that's no different than anyone taking anything in any sport. That would be considered cheating. I mean, Adderall's a banned substance in Major League Baseball, right? So if you look at Major League Baseball, even if you have a prescription for it, you still have to get approved by Major League Baseball to still take it. There's a player on the Orioles, Chris Davis. He used to take Adderall, and he was hitting 50 home runs a year. They came down. He ended up signing an 8-year contract worth, I think, $160 million off the top of my head, I think, or 180. But then he got busted for Adderall use. And he's like, well, I have a prescription for it. Like, I've been taking it. And they're like, no, we don't think that you should be taking it. And there's only like 4 or 5 people in Major League Baseball who are allowed to take it because they think that their case is so bad of like their deficit disorder. And ever since then, he has not been able to perform. In fact, he set a record for the worst streak in history, going 0 for 50.
Wow.
So, I mean, it just shows you, even in a sport like that, like how much it can affect a player. You're going from 50 home runs to being one of the worst players in baseball.
And I'm really glad, Ken, that you brought up, like what happened in the steroid era. Cause I mean, it was however long ago, and some people may not follow Major League Baseball, but I mean, we're talking about adults, when it comes to Major League Baseball. I mean, these are high school kids. I mean, right? Like this is worse. And we're also talking about developing brains here.
Right. We're talking about people who haven't fully developed yet. I mean, and even in the Fortnite tournament I was telling you, I mean, the youngest player there was 13 years old. There's a 13-year-old kid in that tournament, and the oldest player was 24. So that, video games is geared towards a younger demographic, right? So the fact that leagues like Overwatch League or people who host tournaments like big companies like Epic Games, I think you should always be doing a LAN type tournament, because I think there's just way too many ways to cheat, especially with some of the stuff that's come out about Fortnite. I'll get to a little bit later. But you have to be drug testing these kids maybe before and after. And it's nothing crazy. It's not like you have to do a blood test. It would just be a simple like urine sample. I'm pretty sure. And that would be it. I mean, I just think it's not okay. And I get, trying to push for something that's so big right now and so popular, and they're making, the gaming industry right now is booming. They're making hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars right now. But I think right now it's kind of something that like they know is kind of going on, but they're just like, yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. But like at the end of the day, it really is. And, the biggest thing is it really like that bad? Like taking a little Adderall? It kind of is, especially if you're not prescribed for it. But when is it going to get to the point where you're going to get something like Barry Bonds, right? Where you have, and I said, I was for the players, but a lot of players used to Major League Baseball. You had a bunch of good players, but then there was the guys like Barry Bonds who he took so much stuff, like his hat size grew and his shoe size grew. Like he wasn't just taking steroids, he was taking multiple different types of steroids, right? He was mixing. But when is it going to get to a point in esports where it's not Adderall anymore and it's like something more serious like cocaine? And then you have like a kid taking drugs like that's going to get you so hyped up to try to stick, be the top of the competition. And I think that's where the line is going to be drawn. And I'd rather it be drawn sooner than some, 15-year-old kid who took something that he doesn't know any better from some friend of his, from high school or something.
Or like his teammate.
Right.
I was like, hey, take some of this. Yeah. And like, can't you be allergic to it? Like,
right.
You don't even know.
An allergic reaction to
like,
what
if the 24-year-old gave it to the 13-year-old? Like, hey man, just take this. Like, it's okay. He's not a doctor. He doesn't know the dosage for the, like, I mean, hypothetically, younger kids, height, weight, all of that. Yeah.
I mean, there were, and it's in Overwatch League. There was you played. I know you watch it more than me. There was a player. His name is Taimu.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular.
But during a live stream, he said he knows of at least like 20 players or so in the Overwatch League that use Adderall, and he admitted that live on stream. I mean, and I know he could just be saying, but it's something that's kind of joked around about, but it's literally looks as like the same exact thing as Major League Baseball. It was always a thing that was joked around about, but the players, it was kind of just like, yeah, whatever, making so much money, so who cares? And it's just to me, it just looks really bad. And I just think there needs to be something that's something needs to happen, because there's reasons why certain things are banned. Like, I remember playing college baseball. I wasn't allowed to have like an energy drink before a game because caffeine's banned in NCAA sports.
What?
Like, it's ridiculous that like you can't do that at that kind of a level, but there's kids taking drugs to play esports, and it sucks because, like, sure, you could sit at home and play in some tournament, but there's no way to monitor it. Like, it's just such a bad situation, I think. And I know that's kind of part of the problem is it's going to cut down on just anyone being able to hold tournaments. But at the end of the day, it's better to be safe than sorry. Any tournament's not worth, some kid potentially taking some drugs that they shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, just an observation after everything you said there is these kids are minors, right?
Some of them.
Do the parents have to sign off on them joining these tournaments? And if so, aren't they aware that their kid's taking Adderall? Because how are they getting the prescriptions for them in the first place? Like, kids just can't go in and go, doctor, hey, prescribe me Adderall so I can go to the pharmacy to get Adderall to participate in this video game tournament.
Well, yeah.
It's got to be something that's parent endorsed, which is something that the guidelines obviously desperately need to be changed, because the parents are endorsing their kids doing these games, which may be getting them the Adderall to compete in these games.
Yeah.
Now, it almost reminds me of like parents maybe even encouraging their kids to get involved with these tournaments to make extra revenue, sort of like actors in Hollywood with their parents that are so, hey, we're going to get you in commercials since you're like 3 years old and you're going to be this big star actor.
Yeah.
And until, like, the kids either become big star actors or they burn out and have terrible lives for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any kind of accountability for parents and monitoring the minors who are participating in these leagues?
Yeah, I don't, and honestly, I don't know. And I do have a statistic here for, so the percentage of boys ever diagnosed with ADHD and prescribed Adderall is 14.8% from 2015 to 2017. Girls, it was 6.7%. So the overall is like 10.8%. But we do know that also boys are predominantly also in, the esports gaming industry. So it's just, I don't know, like, how many of these kids are getting it from teammates?
So yeah, exactly. So, and also it depends on the tournament and the league, because Overwatch League, for the main Overwatch League, you have to be 18, because they have like a minors thing that's like college. I forget what it's called. Contenders. They're Contenders League. There's minors in there. Because I think one of the first female players, she moved up from there because she turned 18. I think she got picked up by the Shanghai Dragons. But to the point, like, where you get it, like, steroids are illegal too. Just because a substance is illegal or you need a prescription or whatever, doesn't mean people can't get it and then, share it. And especially with the statistic that 14%, that means 14% of the players, in theory, probably have access to it.
And it's probably more because, a lot of those, just by observing, so many of those, the kids that are in esports, you can look at them and say, man, this kid probably does have, a little type of deficit disorder where they look a little hyperactive or something, or it's because they're on Adderall. Who knows? You know what I mean? Well,
look at this upcoming generation that is growing up with screens in front of their face. As this next generation grows up, I think we're going to see these numbers grow, because, like, I don't know what the science is behind it, but constantly having a phone, and then, you have a screen, and we have this online learning, like this next generation, is raised in a way where they get this instant satisfaction in everything. You can order something on Amazon. It's there the next day. You can order food without getting up, and they game for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
A lot of these younger kids, if you isolated their age group from, like, maybe an older age group, I would be willing to bet that they tend to have more ADD or ADHD, or at least are diagnosed with it.
Right. And then,
whether it's true or not.
So some other things about like Adderall, right? So I was doing some research, right? And I know I've already gotten to some side effects, but it was like saying using Adderall heavily for a long period of time.
And most of these facts are from AmericanAddictionCenters.org here.
Increases risk factors and potentially long-term side effects, which may progressively get worse. The heart muscles may be weakened with prolonged stimulant abuse, leading to more complications, changing in the brain, as well as mood behaviors. Issues related to prolonged Adderall abuse may also continue unless the drug is safely removed from the body. So, it's usually when you're gaming, like, and you see things about like, heart muscles and mood swings and stuff like that. These kids are sitting on a computer all day, not really doing much, and they're taking these drugs that can have effects on their heart. I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster for the future. It's, I almost look at it like the NFL, where we have these guys bashing their brains in and doing all this, this head damage, and they're getting paid money, but there's so many of them not lasting till like 50 years old because of all their injuries. Right. And I don't want to, esports hasn't been around long enough for us to know the long-term effects. We're just guessing, right? It's all just guessing games. How much are they actually taking? We don't know. But I think there just needs to be something has to be done. Like some type of research needs to be done. Cause and I know, like, especially at big colleges, you always hear about, like, at Yale and at Harvard, these people are taking drugs to try to like do good on tests, because that's even so competitive, right?
Wasn't that like on an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Because Fresh Prince over there had the speed, and then what's his cousin's name? Remember, then he took it and he accidentally overdosed, right? It was their drug episode. Like, that's how they dealt with that topic. I think I remember that episode because it was like one of the darker ones. Like, am I right?
Yeah, I do remember that episode, actually. I'm trying to remember his
Carlton.
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 Oh man, what was?
It's Carlton.
I know we talked about Carlton. Thank you, dude. Yeah, do the Carlton. Yes.
Yeah, so you guys, I'm sure everyone knows the University of Kentucky. There was a study done at the University of Kentucky, right? Found that 30% of its students had abused an ADHD stimulant drug like Adderall at some point as a study enhancer, right? So, if 30% of them are doing it for a study enhancer, how many kids are doing it just to play video games to make like thousands and thousands of dollars? And it also doesn't help. And, I get it that some of these big streamers and big YouTubers are getting also sponsorships for companies like G Fuel and all these energy drink companies. But I also have to you also have to look at it like their target audience is like 10-year-olds to 25, 30-year-olds, right? So that's kind of the target audience. But there's a lot of little kids who I see all the time. I've had a friend at work. She's like, oh, my little kid. I'm like, wants a Bang energy drink. And I looked over at her. I was like, how old is your kid? And he's like, he's like 10. She's like, he doesn't need that. That's not good for him. And it's like, yeah, Bang energy is like 300 milligrams of caffeine and it has creatine in it. I'm like, what? I'm like, she's like, I don't know where he gets it from. Must have like got it from a friend at school. I was like, I even asked her, I was like, does he watch like YouTube and play video games or Twitch or something? She's like, yeah, he watches that all the time. I was like, I guarantee you, if you go home, he got it from a YouTuber. And she went home, came back to me the next day. She's like, you're right. It was one of the YouTubers. He was like, he drinks it when he's playing video games and he wanted to get better at video games. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's things like that. And I don't blame, another thing, I don't blame the YouTuber, it's a sponsorship. They're going to take it. It's the money they, who knows how long that they're going to, do their thing. But it's things like that these kids are so, easily, manipulated. And it's all it takes is be like, hey, you just need to take this energy drink and this drug, this pill, and you'll be just like Ninja or just like Booga, who won $1 million tournament, right? And it just, I don't want it to get to that point, and we can stop it sooner, and which is always better, right? And I think just something needs to be done with this gaming industry.
Ken, did you have any idea about this? I know you're not much into the current video game scene.
It absolutely, I didn't know much about it, but at the same time, I see the allure for these kids that are obviously seeing these kids on ESPN, as you said too, winning $50,000 plus. Just for playing, and then much less like the teams being split. Like, aren't there like $1 million purses that are split across the team? Like $250,000 for a team of 4.
Yeah, well, it just depends on the game, but yeah.
it's just the attraction's there, and plus I said too, they're starting at like 12, 13 years old. You said getting into the more or less, as you said too, the internship leagues. I guess what did you call them again earlier? They're
for Overwatch League, it's called the Contenders.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, it's a lot of like college teams, if you will. That stems from. Don't quote me on that, but it's something along those lines.
And I mean, I said too is where you have, YouTubers more or less getting endorsed by, drinks that are long term, obviously bad effects on people's hearts, especially teens, kids that they're not supposed to be, obviously, taking large amounts of caffeine or once again creatine itself. Yeah. To an underage person. I mean, I remember in high school playing football that there were kids I knew on the team that were using steroids, but you could obviously tell who those kids were because they were so enormously huger than the rest of the players on our team.
Right. And if you think if you think about that, right, you're what is it? Let's just say, for argument's sake, that two people on your high school team was using steroids, right? For esports, right? This isn't like, oh, it's my high school team and I'm the best of my high school team, right? And I'm just playing a couple local kids. For esports, it's just basically, if you're getting into these tournaments, you're the top 100 in the country no matter what, right?
Exactly.
So chances are all these kids are on drugs, right? Because if you took every top college player, in the country, they're all probably juicing. I'm sorry. Like you can say whatever you want. Yes, there are some very talented people out there, but depending on the sports, chances are they probably are on some type of performance enhancing drugs. So with esports, you're almost guaranteed there to be people on drugs. The top, because it's just the top players in the world. It's not just, oh, I'm the best player in my school, and maybe no one in that school is taking any drugs, right? You know what I'm saying?
And without testing, like obviously we're talking about steroids, you can see a noticeable physical difference between people in those cases. Mm-hmm. When it comes to your brain, you can't see that. It has to be tested. Yeah. Right. There's no way to say like that, hey, look at this guy. This guy's on Adderall.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I could just be extremely focused. Mm-hmm. And then, do you know what I mean? It's like you need a test to find out if there is a level competitive field, or else, once again, dude, there's no integrity behind the leagues to find a true winner, other than the fact of, hey, who can get the most amount of enhancements to stay focused compared to the rest of the competitors. And it just becomes like a league that is just, okay, who can ever get the best enhancements wins.
Right. And that's what Fortnite kind of turned into. I know we're going to get a little bit off track from the, the drug standpoint, but, in Fortnite, it came out that there's all these issues. In the beginning, kids were macroing their keyboards, to set that, like, hey, when I push the C button, it sets it to pushing 2 buttons. So I will put up a wall and a floor, or I'll push, I'll put up a wall and edit at the same time. So you're cheating when you're doing that. And then once Fortnite put a ban in for that, it turned out that there was players that they were taping their buttons together, so they would have like C and X taped together, and C and X would obviously be 2 different things. So when they push one of the buttons, it would push 2 buttons at once. So there's so many issues with having like these tournaments online and they're not being monitored. Forget about the drugs, but just from the standpoint of cheating of software, or just doing something stupid like taping your keys together. I mean, there just needs to be something done, because there's right now, to me, there's zero integrity in esports as far as trying to keep it not cheating.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, go on.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, you hit it right on the nail on the head. I'm going, like, the integrity behind this, there is none. It's just, as I said too, whoever can come up with the smartest way to win and is that close to being a good competitor with the one that is, playing by the rules, there's no way of policing it at all. It sounds like it's just a free-for-all. It's almost like, chaos sports rather than actually competitive sports.
Mm. I guess so. Like when you're, in this top percentage, when you're competing at that level, that 0.001 of a second, is the difference of, of getting the kill or, not qualifying, Yes. So it causes a necessity for wanting to take the Adderall, for wanting to tape your keys together, you know, for you're wanting to do, you know, whatever. So the sooner it can be curbed, you know, whether it's the keyboards, the mice, the performance enhancing drugs, the sooner we can get back to just the baseline of the competition, me versus you, you know, the sooner that is curbed, the sooner it's going to be more real, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Like, it's going to be more real. Yeah. I mean, look, what was the steroid era? I mean, you know, McGuire, Sosa, Griffey were all hitting all the home runs, shattering records, and then like, what happened after that? When's the last time something like that happened?
No, it hasn't.
That's what I mean.
And I think a lot of sports need to look at Major League Baseball and what they did and do what they did. I think when you have sports like originally when the MMA came out, it was like, man, we're just watching a bunch of roided out dudes just beating the heck out of each other, right?
Whether it was fun or not.
It was fun or not. Yeah, great, you enjoyed it, whatever. Okay, that's fine. And now they have a really strict drug. Like, it turned around really quick. They did it. I'm going to be honest, they did a great job. They do like blood testing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they learned from Major League Baseball. They saw what they went through, and they're probably like, you know what? We have a good thing here. Let's make sure we don't ruin it by doing what Major League Baseball did.
And you know what? To me, like, it's still fun. Like, it's not just the heavyweights. Like, you know, there's a baseline again. Right. You know, like, I mean, look at Conor McGregor. Like, he was only what, like a $135 when he started, you know, made his way up to 155, and his fights were still great. Like, he didn't have to be like, you know, over 200 plus pounds, you know, to be knocking out people, you know. And now there's the women's division too, and like the women fights are great. You know, you have incredible fighters like Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, Joanna. I can't pronounce her last name. I love her. I follow her on social media, but I can't pronounce it. But you know, there's that integrity,
right? And I think, you know, you just have to say, hey, they just need to figure out a way to do it. And you know, and I know it's difficult because there's so many people around and across so much, and it's really expensive to try to have people do like local tournaments, because it's not just like, hey, we're gonna have a tournament in California because most of the players are in California. Doesn't really work that way. But you have to find some way to either have them go to certain locations where they can compete, where, you know, hey, you can do the drug tests over at this hospital that we have a deal with all around the country, and then you can go to, you know, this area, you know, this building, and there's going to have your mouse and keyboard that's, you know, you're not cheating, and your monitor that's not cheating, that there's no cheats on or anything like that. There's nothing taped, right? You know, I think there just needs to be some type of way, some type of integrity for it all.
This has to at least start with the teams, like Overwatch League, where the teams are together, right, and there is a league and they have their own stadiums. Like, you can curb that a lot easier. Okay, we're going before the game. Everyone's got to take their P test, and now we got to do it afterward.
Right, and you have to do it before and after, because I mean, you could just pop it right before the game.
It has to be before and after. Right? Do it in the Counter-Strike leagues. Do it in these team leagues.
I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess that's all that matters, right?
But then your team would be disqualified if anyone got it. So, and I know it's rough, and I don't want to see. I love esports. I don't want to see it because it'll be worse than, to me, it'll be way worse than Major League Baseball, because it's going to be about kids. It's not about adults who decided to take steroids. That's a decision that an adult made, and it is what it is, right? These are kids, and that's not okay, in my opinion. You know, and I'm going to be honest, I look at football right now. I stopped watching football because, to me, there's zero integrity in football anymore, because all they do is a urine test. They're not blood testing their players, and to me, that's disgusting, because they're all could be taking human growth hormone, and no one would know it because that doesn't show up in a urine test. So what a joke that is, in my opinion. And then you could take other things that aren't going to show up in a urine test. So I just think that whole league is a joke too.
Wow.
But I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't even care about football.
What were you going to say?
All it takes is for one kid to get severely sick or have a stroke during a tournament.
Yeah.
And you're going to see sponsors pull out. And as soon as the sponsor pulls out because they don't want the bad publicity on them, that's where the money for these tournaments is coming from. It's not obviously coming from registration fee.
Right.
It's coming from the sponsors donating for the sponsorship logos all through these tournaments.
Yeah, and the ad revenue.
And as soon as they see money disappearing from their foundations and the tournament purses and just all of the, if they're giving away they're obviously making tens of hundreds of millions to give away $1 million purse off of these tournaments. I do see that you're going to see strict rules just be enforced overnight. I mean, as I said too, it's like once money comes off the table, you're going to see them actually say, "Oh my gosh, we can't have this happen. We need to get this fixed." And probably what happened over in UFC. Do you know what I mean? Yep. It's like UFC was maybe losing viewership and losing sponsorship based off of the integrity of the sport not being reputable, and this will happen over in esports over time too, but bringing attention to this is going to get that ball rolling. And I'm very, very impressed that we're the people that came up with this first. I mean, it blows me away that this hasn't been talked about before.
I feel like
it hasn't been addressed
it's
before,
not,
but
it's
it
not
is.
being talked about.
It's hidden because you can't see. You can't see anybody, that's using Adderall. You just, as I said too, it's talked about. It's behind closed doors, and to open the doors, I think, is a huge thing for this to change.
And it's been happening. It's going to happen more because there's just more money on the line now. I mean, I heard on a stream, his name is High Distortion. I've watched his stream a couple of times. He plays with Nick Merckx all the time, who I watch. He said the Gears of War, when they used to play Gears of War together. He said at least half the play, he said half or 90%. He said at least half the players in Gears of War were taking Adderall. And that was back when, like, you weren't really making much money. Like, you were flying out to, like, Texas, and you were maybe going to win, like, $5,000, and you're splitting it amongst, like, 5 friends, but it cost you, like, $400 with a plane ticket and a hotel, to go out there. So you really weren't making much money, but you're doing it because you had, you loved the game and you had passion for it. And that's kind of what it was about, right? If people were doing Adderall and other drugs back then, what are you doing now making $50,000, $100,000 in these tournaments, right?
So here's the thing too. Now it's like there are these little admissions of it here and there sprinkled out, and it's on the internet for all the world to see. People have said it on YouTube videos, Twitch streams, interviews in various esports leagues now, right? As Lance was saying, there's little admissions. Oh, they're doing it. Whether a part of them are true or not, it's time to take those seriously before, like you said, Ken, before some kid has a stroke or a heart attack in the middle of a tournament because he took too much Adderall that he wasn't supposed to, or whatever it is.
Right.
He's just lost that actual edge. I need that championship. Do you know what I mean?
Let's not let that happen. I'm sure this may be this may not be the most dangerous drug in the world, but like I said, we're not talking about adults. Like we're talking about developing brains. What are the long-term effects of literally abusing this?
And again, it's not just, it always starts somewhere, right? And you look at other sports like baseball and football, it probably started off with a little testosterone, but that also turned into taking, some other type of steroid, whether it was, horse steroid or something. It kept going, right? It was just who can take more stuff. And if you just keep going with it, it's going to turn into some crazy stuff. I mean, I guess, look at bodybuilding, right? Let's take bodybuilding, for example, because we all know, they're all juicing. They don't get drug tested, right? Unless they're doing the Mr. Natural, right? Look at, Arnold Schwarzenegger compared to a guy 50 years before him compared to guys today, right? They're slowly getting bigger. They're getting bigger and bigger and stronger, right? And it's all because there's just more drugs out there. And it's kind of like the same thing where, sure, maybe kids are just taking Adderall now, but like I said before, when does it come to the point where it's like, I'm taking cocaine or I'm taking something else that's crazy because I need that edge. I need to be more stimulated than Johnny, who's kind of better than me. And I know if I can't take him one-on-one, but if I'm on cocaine or something, if I'm on some type of drug that's better than Adderall, then it's just, that's when it's going to be like extremely bad. And that's when, we can avoid it. Just let's try avoiding it. And I don't want to be like negative about esports, because to me, I love esports. I've watched probably almost every Call of Duty tournament this past year for Warzone. I watched almost every Fortnite tournament the first 2 years it came out. I love competitive esports. And I watched the first season of the Overwatch League. Like, to me, esports is great. I love it. There's so much action. It's fun. It's interesting. Yeah. But I just don't want to see it fall and take that bad stride like Major League Baseball did.
No, I love it too. I love Overwatch League. I have jerseys.
I really do think that regulating it won't stop the entertainment value of it either.
No way.
I mean, the competition level will bring down every level. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to, you won't notice the amount of difference in the gameplay if you're watching it as a fan. But the health ramifications on it is so much more detrimental to these people playing that putting regulations on it is the only logical thing to do, because you're still going to have an entertaining product. It's just not going to be drug enhanced.
Yep.
So, it's going to be like, hey, you'll still enjoy watching the games. You'll still enjoy the competition. It will just be regulated for the first, based off of what you're suggesting.
Yep.
Correct.
You're 100% correct. I love Overwatch League. I play a lot of Overwatch. I still play Overwatch. Overwatch League is so fast. Sometimes like I can't even take in everything that's happening. So like, even if it came down just a little bit, it's still going to be so fast. And that applies to everything, like, especially with team-based fighters like that. Like I said, it's just resetting the baseline, like we said.
It may be more entertaining at that level, because you'll be able to focus as a fan more on what's going on, because their brains are operating so much faster than the fans watching.
Mm-hmm.
It could be almost dizzying watching what they're doing, because it's at such a higher mental level and higher hyperactive level that you may not be able to enjoy it as much as a fan if they really do it without any kind of enhancements, because then your brain is operating at the same level their brain's operating at, and it's not too hard to absorb what they're doing with their minds right there.
Yep, 100%. Any closing thoughts, Lance, before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think I said my little spiel. I hope nobody got upset with me, or us or anything. We just, at the end of the day, like I said, we love esports, and we want the best for it, and we think maybe bringing attention to this, and those of you watching, if you can spread the word or mention it to maybe certain people that like, hey, this could be a potential issue, and it's I hope you guys think the same thing, because I think it's better to be safe than sorry, in my opinion.
I believe like the long-term health of esports, this is a major topic to discuss for them. And I said too, it's like, this is your man, dude. It's nails. This is it's kind of disturbing to me that they are not even looking at this yet.
Yeah.
I said too, esports, like video games are the future. I mean, if you think of another thing, one more thing I was thinking too is you're talking about football and other sports having major injuries, like CTE, something like Junior Seau went through. San Diego Charger USC linebacker that was one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet, but he ended up committing suicide.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't fight these thoughts going in his brain from all the concussions.
Yeah.
And he donated his brain to science afterwards to try to get the NFL to do something about it. And it's you don't want to see that come to this point. I mean, the good thing about video game playing is, what are you going to get, like, bad thumbs? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing long term other than enjoyment and fun of playing the game. Yeah. There's no really, like, you're not going to have any parents say, "Oh, I don't want you getting hurt. Don't play e-games." Do you know what I mean? It's a healthy form of fun that has a large future in front of it if they can get in front of this before it gets out of control.
I mean, the worst thing usually players get is a carpal tunnel, right? I mean, that could be serious. It could be bad, but it is something that you can try to stop, prevent, but it is better than playing football and bashing your brain in, right? So, I just don't want you don't want to add more potential issues for a sport that's like minimal risk as it is.
So,
is that, and you have to do training that is like very physical training. It's just you know what I mean? Video game is focus. It's not extraneous on your body.
So, in closing for me, I always say, if you enjoy Nightcap Chat, share it, tell your friends about it. But if you could share one episode, please just share this episode just to help stimulate it, help spread it, help us get the hits, just to raise awareness on this topic. Yes. Just because it's important. And like, we're not going to talk about things this serious very often. But because it's related to video games, and we do talk about video games on this podcast, we wanted to bring it up now, because right before any of these terrible things that could potentially happen, as a cause of drug abuse, let's get some awareness going. Send it in to whatever blogs you like to listen to or whatever. Share it on social media. Like, let's bring attention to this now, before, like Ken said, some kid has a heart attack on stream or something, or some really negative side effect. Let's reset the baseline of esports and really just make them fun again. Like, yes. I mean, not that they're not fun now, but like let's let's just get this bad stuff out of the way.
Right.
You know, we can do it now. So, and I hope this does help raise some awareness. But thank you all for taking the time to listen. Like I said, please do share this episode. We're Nightcap Chat. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Nightcap Chat and Instagram at Nightcap_chat. If you do have an idea for an episode topic or want to hear us answer anything on stream, just send us a direct message on any of our social media channels or probably YouTube. Our social media is probably the best way to submit something to us. Ken?
Yeah, thanks you guys for listening again. We always appreciate you guys. And I'd love to hear. I can't wait to read and hear the feedback about this episode, because I care a lot about kids, people everywhere that are dealing with this. I mean, it's sad to see something that is headed in a direction that could lead to bad health conditions. I mean, especially in a year of a pandemic, there's nothing else that we need to hear about that is worse than, something getting out of control when it comes to health. This is Ken, Drawn to Comics, drawntocomics.com, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can find us in downtown Glendale, Glendale, Arizona, 5801 West Glendale Avenue. Thanks again for bringing this to our attention, Lance. I mean, I don't mean to be so shook up over it, but it's very disturbing to me.
Thanks. So you can catch me on Twitch, which is kind of funny since I'm just ripping into esports. But I told you I love gaming, But you can catch me on Twitch at Tales of Lance. Right now I'm on a little streaming break, not because I want to be, but because I don't have internet till the 11th. So it's kind of unfortunate that you can't have you guys come in and talk to me about this on stream or something. But you can also reach me on my Instagram or my Twitter at Tales of Lance. Also, if you wanted tell me what you think or your opinions, and I'll get back to it and maybe mention it on next stream.
Yeah, so we hope we brought this issue to light to all of you guys listening here at the very least. So hopefully this perpetuates a little knowledge train here. But we appreciate you all taking the time to listen. We love you. Be safe, and we will catch you all next week.
Have a good week, guys.
Thank you all for listening.